Yo, you're watching a Screaming Fish here, people, and once again I'm here for another video, and this time, like previous videos, it's a discussion video. So, today's discussion is about a particular question that I think some people may be asking when they come out of movies, like Suicide Squad, for example, or maybe every single Marvel movie so far. Should all superhero movies have a lighter tone? Now, the reason I'm really discussing this is mainly because of the many complaints about the tone of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice being too dark, which in turn led to Suicide Squad having reshoots to make it more fun, and then having the Trailer Park Company, who made the amazing Suicide Squad trailer featuring Queen's very own Bohemian Rhapsody, to edit a new cut of the movie to make the movie more fun and lighthearted. Similar to the trailer, and of course a lot of people weren't so happy about that. Although I actually love the film, just putting that out there. So yes, the movie was reshot and edited to be more fun like the trailer, basically bringing a much lighter tone to the movie. But it didn't really go in Warner Bros. Favour, as the movie, similar to Batman v Superman, was met with bad to mixed reviews from critics in particular. However, a lot of the public really enjoyed the movie and praised it for its lighter tone, in particular. Which leads me to my earlier question: should all superhero movies have a lighter tone or lighthearted, to put it short? And my answer to that question is no, they shouldn't. No, not all superhero movies should have a lighthearted tone. Why is that, you ask? Well, a lighthearted tone works for superheroes like Spider-Man, for example, or Deadpool, or a lot of the characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It works for those particular characters because Deadpool, for example, is a character who expresses his sense of humor constantly, either through hilarious jokes, coincidences, or a brief fourth wall break. Not to mention, a large portion of Deadpool, the movie, is focused on the romance between Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, and Vanessa. So, for those particular reasons, the movie would need to be lighthearted because the film itself is essentially an action/comedy/romance. Yes, I am aware that comedies can be dark as well, and dark comedies are a thing. I'm just trying to make a point here. Because really, Deadpool is essentially a character that I personally don't think would work in a really dark tone, say like the tone of Batman v Superman, where there's almost like no comedy at all. Because Deadpool, the comedy is a part of Deadpool. You can't take that away from him just like that. Because so he kind of needs to be in a kind of really kind of light setting as well. But it can work in a dark setting if you add in dark humor, I guess. But what I mean is that like you can't really take the humor and basically comedy away from the character just like that. That's just part of who he is, really. So, but then you have a Marvel TV show like Daredevil, which is also set in the MCU, but is far darker and more bloodier than the movies. That character would work in a darker tone mainly because of where the story takes place, which is in Hell's Kitchen. And in the comics and even the TV show, that particular setting is overrun by all kinds of criminals, especially when the leader of a large portion of those criminals is Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Deadpool has to deal with all of that, literally, while at the same time dealing with people in the core, as his alter ego Matt Murdock is in fact a lawyer, which, when he is not being a superhero, of course. Movie scenes set in courtroom are known to get quite dramatic or dark, even depending on what would be going on in that scene or what the theme of the scene is. Not to mention, this show also introduces characters like the Punisher, who is literally a walking tank when it comes to the amount of guns and weaponry he carries around with him. For example, that scene in the beginning of Daredevil Season 2, where the Punisher literally shoots a whole gang of criminals to pieces, and it shows nearly every bloody detail, which basically implying that the show can get really, really violent, obviously. And it's also worth mentioning how dramatic the show can actually get at times, especially with the particular themes it deals with. I know you can have sort of gore and violence in dark movies, obviously, but what I mean is you can have gory action in a light-hearted movie, but at the same time, because of the themes Daredevil deals with, it sort of goes into that darker tone, obviously. So yeah. So yeah, what I'm basically trying to say here is that you can even have a movie or TV show set in something like the MCU, which so far has sustained a pretty light tone throughout its movies, and have a show as dark as Daredevil, and it can still work. It just depends on what character you're dealing with. Certain characters work better in a darker movie, the same way other characters work in more lighthearted movies, basically. For example, Batman. In my opinion, there's absolutely no way to tell Batman's origin story in a lighter toned movie. The guy literally sees his own parents get murdered in front of him at the age of 10, which is ultimately his motivation for becoming the Batman. Just a quick note, I don't actually know how old Bruce Wayne was when he actually saw his parents murdered in the comics or in Gotham. My bad. Not to mention, he has an entire roster of enemies that mostly have extremely dark personalities or dark origin stories. For example, the Joker. Yes, he can work in a lighter tone, but that still isn't getting rid of the fact that versions of him in the comics, like the Killing Joke, for example, he is literally a genuine psychopath. Because in that story, he shoots and paralyzes Barbara Gordon, who up until that point was Batgirl, and did all kinds of crazy and horrible nightmarish things to try and turn Jim Gordon insane. Not to mention, recent on-screen versions of the character, like Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker or Jared Leto, took it in a more dark and sinister route, similar to the version of the character in the Killing Joke. Heath Ledger's Joker was, and still is, praised for his darker, more sociopathic take on the character, which leads me to believe that the character works best in a darker tone. Yes, the character has been proven to work well in a lighter tone as well, but I would personally say he works best in a darker tone because there is more you can do with him, particularly with the psychopathic side of the character, than in a lighter tone movie. And yes, I know Batman works in a more lighter tone, as well. For example, Adam West's Batman TV show, but then again, that was a more campy take on the character, so I guess, but still counts though. While DC movies do tend to be quite dark, there are characters that work perfectly in a light-hearted tone. For example, The Flash. If you're a fan of the CW TV series The Flash, then you'll know that the show has a much lighter tone than its counterpart Arrow, which does have its moments of darkness, admittedly, even though it is pretty light for the most part. The show is very colourful and is also really funny when it wants to be. Then again, The Flash does tend to have its moments of darkness which are used to further develop the story or characters. In other words, you can have a dark scene in a light-hearted setting, but it's got to have a reason to be there. For example, when the protagonist of the show, which in this case is Barry Allen, aka The Flash, finally comes face to face with the antagonist of the show, that's going to be a pretty dark scene, obviously. The scene in the first season of the show when Barry finally comes face to face with the Reverse Flash is an extremely dark and intense moment in what is otherwise a pretty light-hearted show, but it works perfectly because that scene sets up the rivalry between the two characters and the future confrontations they will inevitably have, as well as the stuff that's already been set up between the two. So, dark scenes like that really work because of what I've literally just said. They work in a lighter tone movie or TV show, but it has to have a reason. Like, for example, coming face to face with the villain for the first time, or one of the main characters dying, for example, stuff like that. So, do all superhero movies or TV shows need to be lighthearted? No, not at all. Not all of them do, but at the same time, it really depends on what character you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a character like Deadpool, then it may have to be a lighthearted movie, or if you're dealing with a character like Batman, then it may have to be a darker tone, particularly if he's facing a villain like the Joker or Scarecrow, for example. It really depends on what characters you're using or what kind of story you're trying to tell, basically, because Deadpool, that's a really light-hearted film, and obviously it does have a few dark moments here and there, but it's mostly light-hearted. And you could even say the same for TV shows like The Flash. That is really lighthearted, but it has its dark moments. Not to mention, even Batman v Superman. That was, I'm not gonna lie, that was a very dark movie, and I'm gonna be honest, I do not remember a single scene that actually felt lighthearted. But overall, I think it really depends on what story you're trying to tell and what characters you're working with. So, guys, thank you for watching this discussion video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and please like and subscribe and follow me on Facebook, and I will indeed see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys. Oh, and before I go, nearly forgot, I won't be able to post videos as frequently as I have been anymore because the school holiday is over, and I obviously will be going back to a place called school. And yeah, so they won't, the videos won't be coming out as frequently as they have been for the past 6 weeks. So yeah, just full on warning you there. So guys, once again, thank you for watching, and I will indeed see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.